The second thing that we have to do is a couple of emergency actions. I know that for most people probably know that we have a wastewater treatment plant that has been defunct for all over a decade now. And the irony is, like, I have an opponent that's running who has sat on that board for years, who has chaired that board, the wastewater treatment plant, never sounded the alarm, never fought to repair the wastewater treatment plant. No, they did pass a law or pass a bill to build a pipeline to dump that toxic waste down into the Rio Grande, but we've still never actually done the work necessary to get the money from the state to actually repair that facility, and we've never done the work to actually get private dollars and a bond ready to go to build a new facility. It is absolutely critical, not only from the airport, we also just are having an environmental catastrophe that shouldn't happen in this community especially, but definitely doesn't need to be happening to our neighbors below us in their agricultural farming. The second thing is our homeless situation. I think that you'll hear a lot of people talk about solutions. I am not a big fan of the pallet shelter homes. It is costing us $1.3 million per 10 pallet shelter homes for wraparound services. That's not sustainable. Those pallet shelter homes only have a 10-year lifespan as well. I don't know why we aren't talking about brick and mortar if we're really talking about transitional housing. But my big thing is, as a master in social work, I have reached out to every service provider here. A couple of them are in the room, and a couple couldn't be here today, but we're gonna have a panel and we're gonna have a long conversation about what actually is needed. For the last 11 years, every survey that's been done by the city of Santa Fe has said the same thing. All of our service providers ask for it. We need a one-stop location. What is a one-stop location? Well, I have an opinion about it, and I'm gonna explain to you the difference between a public servant versus a politician. A year ago, my former client, Justin Green, who's now in the race against me, called me up and had a brilliant idea. It is a brilliant idea, that we use the Juvenile Justice Center as a treatment facility. And I was like, that's interesting. Now, a politician has a good idea and then just starts going and telling everybody about it. A public servant calls the service providers to ask them what is actually needed and what we really have to have happen if we want to be successful and tackle the problem. So my opponent will tell you that we need a 24-hour shelter services. I'm going to tell you differently. Here's what we need. We need a mental health facility that has beds. We have nowhere to put folks that have been deemed unfit by our courts. They are waiting for a bed in Rio Rancho or in Albuquerque, and if they don't have one, they're just on the streets. So we need a mental health facility. Stage, I call it like a level 4, the top of the top. We need a drug rehab facility with beds and transitional living spaces. We need a shelter that also includes the resource center that Peace Place is so desperate to have. And it needs to have an encampment, right? And it needs to be in one space so that way it's police monitored and managed correctly, and not in the middle of town. So those are the two first major action items that will immediately start as I come in as mayor. And then the final thing is a forensic audit. Now, do we have any auditors in the room? No? Cool, great. Because I said forensic audit one time and everyone's like, do you know what that means? And I just kind of thought like it was like in the movies, you know, when they're like, they go through your bank accounts like with the fine tooth comb and like really make sure they understand where all your dollars and pennies are at. Apparently forensic audits are a lot more difficult than what it is. But let me tell you why I say forensic audit. One, if you go back and read the audit since 2008, which is when they started, you will see that they haven't changed since 2008. And we weren't doing real audits in 2008. And if you see any of the disclaimers that are in every audit, they also are very clear that this is all they can get their information, their hands on. So it's as good as it's gonna get, but like it's not a real audit. The other thing is we've never audited 10% of our funds, ever. Not in one audit. Let's not even talk about bonds and other things. So there are very specific things that I think that need to be looked at a little bit more intently. A couple of months ago, we found a bank account with $250,000 in it. What was that bank account? What was it for? No one knows. It just got moved. The level of dysfunction that is happening around our finances, from cash flow issues to not paying on time to reopening books a year after the fact, those kinds of things just can't keep happening with taxpayer dollars. And so those are the 3 things in the first month that have to happen and will be critical to being able to reallocate funding to the areas that are needed, right? Not special districts, but our roads.